Yes, hello again everybody and welcome to the Wrestling Skull podcast. I'm your host John Scott, joined as always by my co-host Matt Essex. And Matt, how you doing? Because we haven't done a current show for a long time, and we've also I don't think we've done a Saturday show probably ever, at least not live anyway that I can remember. But how you doing, Matt? And you're back on the show.
Yeah, not doing too bad. Like I say, we don't do too many Saturday ones, or not that go out there live. So a new experience.
Yeah, new experience. Well, for some of the listeners that might have crossed over just after another podcast has finished, actually in across the seas, across the pond, as we say. I was on the American Professional Wrestling podcast, is what they're called, with the host over there. Named Ross Barker, of all people. He's a really good wrestling sort of dictionary, I call him. He's like the professor of professional wrestling, and I had the good fortunes of going on that show as a guest, and of course I was plugging this podcast. I mean, that's what it's all about at the end of the day. But not only that, giving a little bit of insight into what's going on over in the UK, in particular, World of Sport, which has really made the news, even in America, Matt, that ITV are going to be airing that pilot show on New Year's Eve. We've now got it official. Matt, have you heard anything more to that, just as we're on the subject? Because, like I said, it has made its rounds across the pond, which means it's definitely getting out there, and word of mouth and all the rest of it. So the production for it, from what I've seen, looks really, really good. I know it's the same studios as they do the UK The Voice show on, yeah. And like I said before, I think they had like an 18,000 kind of ticket waiting list, and of course only so many could get in there. But I mean that speaks volumes when you got that many people wanting to go and see World of Sport. Anything your end that you've heard, Matt?
No, I think you covered it all mostly there. I've heard the same kind of things that you have, and it's great that many people want to get back into it, and hopefully, like the fan base for it just keeps growing.
Yeah, I'm kind of really intrigued to see what we're going to get. I'll definitely be. Whether I'll be tuning in that particular night, I don't know, because I have no idea what I'm doing that day. But I do know it's getting a nice prime time slot. So I guess for many people, Matt, like that don't always go out, that it is definitely going to be out there, because again, ITV, it's not like a kind of subscription paid network channel. I think we should make that clear to maybe our listeners abroad, that ITV is actually one of the stations that you can pick up anywhere. It's a massive channel, and when you've got that kind of production behind you, and they're able to just give you that nice little prime time slot, it makes a hell of a lot of difference, especially with advertising and all the rest of it. So it's really big news in that sense, and I think that they're definitely going to be testing the waters. I know it's going to be about a 2-hour program. They've got some great talent on there. As I've said before, Jim Ross is the announcer, along with Britain's own Alex Shane. They're both calling the action, and that's quite a big deal in itself when you've got somebody iconic like JR calling the matches. It's kind of familiar and at the same time fresh, which is kind of what you want. But the presentation is kind of crucial, I believe, especially when you're trying to get something on TV. Like, it is kind of a big deal, the production levels and all the rest of it. So I'm really intrigued to see how it comes across, because obviously we've covered some World of Sport on our show. I'm hoping that it all goes well, and ITV think to themselves, okay, we'll give this a run. Once they see the popularity of it, I'm hoping that it will definitely get the big audience. Matt, do you think it will get the audience and that will get it going, or is there any sort of like slight little tweaks that you see as a hurdle stumbling that could come up for it?
I don't see why there's any reason why it wouldn't early on. The first few episodes will probably have big numbers, I'd imagine, because a lot of it's got a wide audience. Like, there'll be a lot of older people that want to get back into this, because they remember it from watching it when they were younger, and they'll be anticipating it, thinking, oh, okay, this could be something worth watching. It'd probably be completely different from what they'd seen before, but it would still be good for them to actually see and maybe show them how far wrestling's come in that kind of time. And of course, there's the younger kind of generation. I'll still class myself in that.
Well, we got to, Matt. We got to. We've definitely got to do that, because if we don't, we're going to be on the other side of things, aren't we? So yeah, we do the wrestling arts show. I'm going to give you that, but at the same time, I'm going to consider myself new to the presentation that is World of Sport. Way before our time, Matt. Way before our time. So yeah, we're up on that one. Now, World of Sport in general. Just in closing this one, Matt, it's still, like we said, it does have name value to World of Sport. Like, it is an iconic thing in this country. There's been many documentaries about it and all the rest of it, and many of these sort of older wrestlers in the UK always used to come out with that line, well, we do it better than the Americans. But really and truly, I think we missed the boat, Matt, when most of the Americans kind of got on with the entertainment side of things. I think that's something that UK wrestling needed to kind of learn, and the difference between a live show to a TV kind of show are two different things, as we've discussed many a times on this podcast. Not always for the best, I'll say that much. If you're in the live audience on a TV show, it's not always that grand, but there is a difference, Matt, in terms of working a TV kind of style match to just a live event kind of match. Like, there is a complete difference, and especially I think the only ones I would say that really dedicate it, that are mainstream, I'd say, is probably Ring of Honor. They still pretty much all eggs in one basket with in-ring presentation, and they don't really bother with the so much of the fluff, as we call it, the goings on outside of the ring. But Matt, we talk about name power with World of Sport and still having it, and I'm gonna kind of move aside now, Matt, to another topic, and we go from a nostalgic name power to something that maybe doesn't quite have the name power currently, TNA. I'm not sure that would if that went down, that coming back in the next 30 years would have the same intentions, at least not at the moment. But lots of different kind of news. I've had some emails in, some positive ones, Matt, saying that things are picking up, that there's a potential buyer, that there's been a deal done, and you never know what to believe, what not to believe, and how much we should really get excited about. But there has been some news in the sense that they might have a financial backer. I don't know if you've heard anything to that knowledge yourself, Matt.
No, actually, I hadn't heard that yet. See, the thing with TNA is I can read about 4 different stories on them in the same day.
In 1 hour.
And it would be conflicting reports. So in the end, I'm just going with the flow with TNA now. If it survives, I'm happy that it will survive. But I'm not reading too much into it lately.
Yeah, it's very hit and miss, because there's so many. First of all, whenever they make a press statement, there's so many people making press statements within the company. Like, you don't know who to believe in the company, so you don't know who's really telling the truth, who's not. Is it Dixie Carter? Is it it's all over the place. But let me give you some news. This is credit to PWI Insider that put up a post earlier, and their news, basically, that I've read in most sites, said it looks like TNA now has a new financial backer. According to the report by PWI Insider, I think they're called Anthem Media, is completely financing the backing of TNA right now, and is still no word on when the company has officially been purchased, Impact Ventures or TNA Wrestling. So literally, as far as Dixie Carter, she too was still working for TNA office last Friday. So I mean, it really is one of those things where you got to take it with a pinch of salt sometimes. And listen, I like most people. I kind of want TNA to succeed because, again, it's just another place for not only wrestlers to put on their craft and another option, but also it's something for us to watch as wrestling fans as well. Whether I like the product or not, it's still another outlet, and the more there is, the better I feel. But it's one of those things, Matt, where I wonder if that name, really, the TNA altogether, would just have to be scrapped. I mean, it's a bitter pill to swallow, I'm sure, for many people, especially Dixie Carter, that's grown the company. But and I know they've got all that history, but when you say, Matt, enough is enough, and perhaps the video archive is probably the only real value in that product currently, considering that most of their wrestlers are not under a full-time contract anymore.
I really do want to see it succeed as well. I mean, I know it's gone for its bad patches, but there's always been a redeeming quality at any given time. You know, it's always had some great talent down there, and I do like the way they're particularly good at reinventing talent. You know, even when guys leave WWE and then they go to TNA, and then they usually do very well down there, and then it's sort of a rejuvenation for their career. It's like it's like NXT, but not part of WWE, I guess, because they're good at reinventing people. Like it's like NXT for sort of washed up people, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those. I mean, it's just one of those crazy kind of stories that you keep hearing about every time we come on the podcast. There's there's always a new story about TNA, and normally it's quite negative. But on the positive side of things, listening, I think it was it not last week but the week before, we had Broken Matt on who came onto the Jim Ross podcast, and very fascinated that because normally for those of you that have ever tuned into JR's podcast, he's doing pretty much a shoot interview every time. It's not really anything about characters. JR, alliance wise, is not, he's not under contract from WWE anymore. He doesn't have to do anything that they sort of want to tell him. It's a bit like Austin, really, kind of doing his own thing. But I was really interested, Matt, that Matt Hardy went on as Broken Matt, and he did not break character once. I don't know if you got to hear it, but it was quite intriguing to see how Jim Ross was handling it, because I think even he was thinking it's very out there.
I think that's a great idea, though. It's good to stay in your character like that. I mean, not many people do that these days. And the fact that he's just gone all out of his character and thrown himself completely into it, I think that's all the more power to it. I think it's just giving it like even more of an effect. It's sort of like if you saw Bray Wyatt and you saw him doing an interview, you wouldn't just want to see a guy just turn up and then have a chat. You'd want to see, the character that you've seen on TV. Yeah,
I totally agree with that. And actually, I applaud Matt Hardy for doing it, because I think it's something that's really missed in today's professional wrestling, with social media, Twitter, Facebook, and everything else that you see these guys out there. I kind of feel like, especially in WWE, that it's really tough to be behind any of the characters when 2 hours later after the show somebody tweets something and it's just like, okay, well, that's just now I'm really listening to the real Bray Wyatt or the real Randy Orton. Similar thing happened, Matt, when Randy Orton, he's part of the Bray Wyatt, he's part of the Wyatt family. Yet, I'm sure you heard about it. The birth of his baby happened, and then of course all them are going up now, and he's telling everybody about that. And I'm kind of thinking, well, that doesn't really sink in with what I'm seeing on TV. So, as much as it's a nice story, 20, 30 years ago, that was unheard of to break character like that. I mean, you would have got a fine. Literally, you would have been, completely told off. But of course, nobody really cares about that, and it is tough, Matt, because I think in WWE internally, they don't seem as bothered about guys keeping their character, especially if you see. I know, in fact, you were watching it. Was it last night, Matt? You was back on the Total Divas front. You watch that program, and you're watching it, and you're then kind of educated to believe as a viewer, well, hang on a minute, that's what you're